If you are enjoying this podcast and other podcasts on the Dragon Wagon Radio Network, be sure to check out the Dragon Wagon Shop. Awesome t-shirts and mugs from your favorite shows so you can tout your podcast pride, all while supporting your favorite indie podcast network. And make sure to check it often for new items and limited time designs. So shop now at dragonwagonshop.com and get your dragon swag on.
To this mythology, Paul's a connoisseur. Sarah has an interest, but it's all Greek to her. From Cronus's kids' weird childhood to what's going down in Hades' hood. These fables are bizarre but good. It's misunderstood.
Okay, great. Hey, thanks for listening to another episode of Myth Understood with me, Paul Bianchi, and her, Sarah Oliver. Hey, we did it. We did it again. No one thought we could do it, but we reached episode 59.
Oh, yeah, 59. That's the good one.
Episode 59 of Greek mythology / Roman mythology now.
Uh-huh.
And today we are also inviting back a guest that is having his third episode ever, so which makes him now tied, for those keeping track, he's tied with Jake Lloyd for 3 appearances on Myth Understood. It is my dad, Bob Bianchi.
Hey, thanks for having me back. I really appreciate being a third timer.
Yeah. I like how Sarah gasped when I said my dad, because she was like, it could be someone different still.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, you had just this lump under a curtain and then you pulled it back. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I could have revealed my dad, Ken Brown.
The crowd still goes wild.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. What's on your shirt today?
What's on my shirt?
Mustard, ketchup.
No, I'm looking at it right now for the first time. It looks like a key.
It is a key.
That
it has
this
the
is a key
skyline of Memphis.
Oh,
Yes.
because
Memphis.
For everyone's information, my dad lives in Nashville, which is near Memphis. Well, I guess nearer than LA is too.
Well, true, but remember my rule. I never wear a T-shirt of where I live.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, Paul only wears T-shirts where he lives.
That's also right. Yeah, I have that Silver Lake shirt and I have that East LA shirt.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't technically live in both those areas, but LA adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See,
I
would never buy those. I just can't buy those if I lived here.
Uh-huh.
So I don't have anything that has Nashville.
Because he's a secret agent and he can't ever give away where he lives.
Yeah.
Home base.
I also grew up with my dad frequently wearing shirts of colleges that he'd never attended. That's a true story.
I love it. He's the hipster patient zero. This is where the plague started.
Yeah.
It is, but I would always buy T-shirts that actually had a president's name on them because I preferred the president over really the school. So Madison was not
okay.
It's
yeah,
like that was the school. So
yeah,
Madison,
represent.
Buchanan, hard one to find.
Did you find it yet?
No, I have not.
All right, listeners.
We have a mission for you.
Should you choose to accept it, he is a secret spy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, today we're gonna talk about more. I would call these not myths so much as legends, as we have talked about with Roman mythology. Roman mythology sort of reaches an end at a point, and then their myths become legends, or basically their history becomes legends because
it's like hyperbolized history. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we are talking about 4 women today, and 3 of them have the same name.
Lisa.
They're all named Lisa.
Yeah.
But we are going to start with a woman by the name of Lucretia. And
all right,
if you are, what you have positive feelings about Lucretia?
that's a more like modern name.
Yeah. I mean, it's a name that I think people became familiar with due to this legend, and I think it possibly was passed down due to the symbol that Lucretia became. After we are done learning about it, you might say, hey, that's an odd choice to name your daughter, but
oh boy.
But yeah, my dad has strong opinions about it. Actually, Dad, tell me about why what made you initially read about this topic? Because maybe not for the first time on our show, but definitely rare on our show, is our guest super familiar with what we're about to talk about?
Well, I've started to read about how the Roman Empire changed, because I really like to read about history and how history tends to repeat itself. Reading like the last 6,000 years, people's behavior doesn't change all that much. And when it came to the Romans, I think there are like three big beginning stories. One of them I know you covered. You talked about Romulus and Remus, which is another legend. It's got some truth to it. It's got some mythology to it.
Yeah, I think it mostly has mythology to it at this point. Yeah.
And then there's the issue with the Sabine women, which is a whole different story. And I don't know if you covered that here or not.
We kind of, due to talking about Romulus and Remus and other just like Roman gods, we sort of ended up covering the Sabine women from two ends, which is an odd way to put that considering how that story goes.
Wait, remind the viewers what that story is.
Oh, so the Sabine women story is basically the Romans found Rome. There are not enough women to sustain their growing population.
Okay, this is the kidnapping.
And they kidnap all the women from the neighboring towns.
Is this the play with the penis? No,
that's Lysistrata.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's still horny men in this story.
There's horny men at Tale of the Littlest Time.
My story also includes
some horny men.
the same theme.
Okay.
The same thing. Because like I'm saying, things haven't changed that much in 6,000 years.
Men
for a
have
lot of
been
stuff.
fully erect for 6,000 years.
Very much so.
Erecting cities and erecting...
There are whole statues
Yeah.
in Pompeii dedicated to the erection.
Well, then that's where I'm headed to next.
Yeah, and we talked about that on episode 2 about Mutinous Tutinous, the
Tutinous.
Mutinous Tutinous, the god that is just a giant erect phallus sometimes.
Was that his song in Singing in the Rain?
Yeah, Mutinous Putinous is his toes are Tutinous.
All right, so the third story, though, is this one here, which happened in 508 BCE. And it's the story of Lucretia. But to me, the amazing part of it is that this event changed Rome. And that's what makes it such an important story to me, is because this one act was a tipping point. And from this story, all of Rome changed for the next 1,000 years.
In a good way or bad way?
I think you're going to end up being the judge on that one.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy.
So this story is it's based on the accounts of Roman historian Livy, and as well as Greco-Roman historian Dionysius of Halicarnassus. Halicarnassus, yeah. And I believe most of the research that my dad did is based off of the Roman historian Livy.
Yes.
So anything that I'm doing different, I think I'm picking up from Dionysius. The basic story begins with Sextus Tarquinius.
Targaryen.
Well, I call him Tarquinius.
Tarquinius,
Yes.
yeah. He was the third and youngest son of the last king of Rome, Lucius Tarquinius Superbus. Superbus.
Superbus, yes.
We could just call him Superbus.
Well, the thing about him, though, is that he sort of self-named himself Superbus because he thought he was so terrific. He was the seventh king and the last king of Rome.
Yeah.
Spoiler
So,
alert.
Tarquinius Superbus was actually sort of a weird tyrant, is that he was out spending a lot of money and kind of ruining the coffers of Rome, and through that process started becoming much more of a tyrant because he needed to wage war to gather more wealth, and so he put people into involuntary servitude, and people were just not happy with Superbus. They just started to turn on him. And then the son,
Yeah.
what a name,
Sextus.
Sextus.
Yeah. And
Doesn't that just kind of say it all?
Yeah, well, it does on my phone.
he was either the third and youngest son or the oldest of the three, depending on Livy or Dionysius. So I'm actually not sure what.
So yeah, they're both like, yeah, I'm a historian.
Yeah.
All right.
He was at a wine party with Lucius Tarquinius Collatinus, and
These are all relatives?
he shares the family name with Sextus Tarquinius. And
Yeah, they're all Tarquinians.
Yeah.
They all are. And Lucius of Calatinus. That's
Calatinus.
all.
Yeah, see, that was my butchered pronunciation
Yeah,
of.
of Calatinus.
Mm-hmm.
He is there at the wine party. Now,
Yeah.
you know how men are at wine parties. You know how they get. Yeah.
Been to a wine party or two.
So they're all kind of waiting because they've been sieging war, and they've got this one town sort of sequestered away, and they're sort of blocking it because the town hasn't fallen yet, and all the people who are officers, these guys in particular, part of the royal house, they're all sitting around because they can drink wine and just tell stories, and Sextus is holding the party. So, can I just kind of like flip where they go with this a little bit?
Flip where they go?
Yeah, I want to flip where they go.
Okay.
Which is, so as drunken men are sort of prone to do, they start having sort of a verbal contest, if you will. And the contest, they...
Mad Libs.
Almost, well, just hold that thought for a second. Because they all start comparing the virtue of their wives.
Hey, yo.
Oh.
Hey, yo,
wait.
Sextus. My wife, she's the most virtuous lady in the land.
Yo, my wife's a virgin.
What? I won't go around saying that.
My wife won't fuck me. She won't even kiss me.
Whoa.
I have a different house.
That's pretty.
Okay.
That's pretty.
My wife wins.
That's pretty virtuous.
My wife rides a pony side saddle.
Oh.
Oh. How old is she?
Well, she's not too old. I've had her around for a while. She's a lovely little lady, and I think she's quite virtuous as it is. I dare anyone to compare that to your wife.
All right. Well, Ned over here just started talking about his child bride. It got weird.
Yeah, so they have this discussion about how virtuous their wives are, and it becomes a contest of whose wife is the most virtuous.
Wow.
And there's only one way to test that contest, which
Have
is
MTV film it.
MTV comes in
And Nick Cannon VJ it.
They wow, this is not that old, Sarah. So they all decide to leave the party and spy on their wives through their windows to see who's
Not piddling herself.
yeah, to basically check out on. Let's see. Well, you said your wife was a virgin. Oh, there she is. She's going to town on herself.
Oh, she said she had a yeast infection.
For 7 years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
long
man.
war.
You know, one of the wives is drinking at home. One of them is
Whore!
Yeah.
Throw a brick through her window.
Oh, yeah. And others draped in garlands and sort of fancying yourself in her fancy clothes. And
Set her house on fire.
So finally, they reach the house of Calatinus, Lucius Calatinus, and he finally he shows them that his wife Lucretia is home. He's like, "See, I told you my wife is very virtuous." And they look through her window, and her and all of her maidens are weaving, just doing the most boring shit. Like no one's talking, no one's listening to music.
yeah, they're making yarn.
Yeah. And so Calatinus bursts in with all of his drunk friends and gives her a kiss for being so boring and pure.
Yeah.
And is like, "Hey, guess what? All my friends saw how pure you are, and I win, and you win because we are the purest, and you're so virtuous." And the prize that I read was that he was offered a palm frond. For this.
I agree. It
Yeah.
was the most glorious palm frond. They said, "I give you the palm frond."
Oh, am I supposed to? This is trash.
No, it's lovely. It's really. I've carried it all the way from Venice. Here, it's for you.
It's just a giant leaf.
So the thing that happens in this moment is, hey, did you ever see one of Jake Lloyd's favorite films, Big Fish?
Yes, I've seen that.
You know when Ewan McGregor describes seeing his future wife for the first time, and there's like
Slow
motion.
shit.
He like pushes
Yeah.
aside popcorn. Well, that's what happens to Sextus when he sees Calatinus's wife,
Lucretia.
He sees her virtue. She is glowing. She is slow motion weaving. She is accepting the palm frond and fanning herself delicately. And he's just like, he is panting. He must have this woman.
You went. Oh, baby, You see a girl yarning with her friends, that's it. Game over.
So I have that a few days later he returns to visit. Is that what your notes have?
Yeah, he goes on the door.
Where he was hospitably received by Lucretia as her husband's kinsman. So she's like, "Oh, hey, Sextus, was it? That's not a weird name. Welcome to my house."
Thank you very much.
And
He's
so,
the Elvis of the Romans.
thank you very much. And she's like, "Oh, well, keep that pelvis away from me." And he's like, "Ha ha ha, we'll see about that." And there's two versions of this that I've read, where one, he stays over in their house or homestead, and in the dead of night he stealthily enters her chamber with a drawn sword and an erection.
Good God. Well, what do you want me to do with both of those?
Please cut this off. And in another version, he enters her room in the evening while she lays naked in her bed and starts to wash her belly with water, which wakes her up.
Well,
Is that which version of these is Livy?
Well, Livy's the first version.
God, which is worse? Which is worse?
She's asleep, and he comes into her bed chamber, and he wakes her and then gives her his proposition.
Yeah.
Which was the sword or the sponge bath?
No, the sword. The proposition is it's awful. So she has a servant in the room, a male servant, and his proposition is, "Hey, Lucretia, you need to have sex with me, and if you refuse, I am going to kill both you and your servant over here and place you in a compromising position, and then tell your husband that I did this because I saw that you were being unfaithful to him, and so everyone will think that you were cheating on him, and I killed you because of that."
I wish I never gave you any of my fettuccine Alfredo. You were a guest in my house.
Well, I'm a fucking asshole, so this is what this.
I'm going to do it, but do not help yourself to any of the leftovers.
So Lucretia in this moment is faced with this impossible choice: allow herself to be raped,
Defiled, yep.
or murdered and
Then defiled.
and defiled post mortem. Yeah. And so she weighs her options and she decides, all right, I'll lay with you, but it's not going to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and that's where things kind of change in future versions of this. This is when other writers have retold the story as time went on, and most famously in the hands of William Shakespeare in the poem, the epic poem, The Rape of Lucretia, or Rape of Lucrece as he wrote it. There's a little bit more of like she might know what she's doing in there, a little bit of like
great.
Robin Thicke blurred lines, but in the original story, it's nope, she did not want this.
Yeah.
Which feels a little bit more realistic, right? So the next day, after this horrible thing happens to Lucretia, Lucretia is dressed in black, and she went to her father's house in Rome, weeping. And he sees her, and he asks why she was crying. And she's like, okay, well, I'll tell you, but first, summon some witnesses, because it can't just be between you and me.
Wait, why?
And so they bring in more witnesses, and then she tells the story of her rape. And surprisingly, everyone believes her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Everyone
Way
says,
to go 2,500 years ago.
yeah.
Fuck.
Well, what I really like about that particular moment and why this is such a great story for Rome is that this was about honor and her standing up for her honor and her family's honor. And that's what made it such a terrific story. To your point that people believed her, because that was the course of that story. And then that potato eater, Bill Shakespeare, starts like screwing around with the story.
Yeah.
It makes her much more of a a temptress, as a possible
Yeah.
temptress as the story changes
Fucking male
over
fantasy that women are just like, please don't rape me. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate that retelling.
Hot take from Sarah. Fuck you, Shakespeare.
years. Just for the record, that
Yeah.
he started changing it. So,
By the way,
Yeah.
Don't Quill the Messenger is a podcast about Shakespeare that we share this network space
Mm-hmm.
with. So, hot take from Sarah. Fuck you, Shakespeare. Listen to Don't Quill the Messenger. Yeah. So that occurs. She calls on everyone in this room for vengeance. Her plea cannot be ignored. And among the people she was listening to in the room was the chief magistrate of Rome. And while they begin debating the proper course of action, she draws a concealed dagger and stabs herself in the heart.
Lucretia?
Yes.
yes.
And she does this because she's in such pain from what occurred emotionally that she kills herself. It sort of it punctuates the importance of this, and she dies in her father's arms.
Yeah.
Jesus.
However, in that moment, prior to her killing herself, she gets the promise from her family that they will seek revenge for her deflowering, that essentially the honor will be intact. And so therefore the family's shamed by this and doubly hurt because of her killing herself at the same time.
Yeah, in front of everyone. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's harsh.
What a story.
Yeah.
What a story.
And also in the heart, because you hear about this in like 2,000 years ago. Nobody does that now in the heart.
Yeah.
The stabbing through your chest cavity is really tough.
It is really tough. Yeah, that must have been. It was a sharp knife.
Wow.
Yeah. So Calatinus, now seeing his wife dead, understandably becomes distraught. He holds her, he kisses her, he calls her name, and
He wasn't there during the confession, though.
he was in my version. He was there during the
Yes, he
confession.
does. He does
Okay,
get called.
He
Yes.
was there. Wow.
And then seeing the potential fate or turnabout that could come in this moment, his friend,
Friend.
kind of
Friend.
yeah, friend question mark Brutus,
Ju-
which shows never trust a Brutus in Rome.
Never.
Yeah. First name Junius.
Junius Brutus decides that he takes main focus in the story at this point. He grabs the bloody dagger and he swears by Mars and all the other gods that he will do everything in his power to overthrow the dominion of the Tarquini. And so what do they do next? They take this body and they start marching through town with it.
Boom,
Wow.
boom, 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 boom,
Did-
boom, boom.
The floats this year are really disappointing. So yeah, they're a newly sworn revolutionary committee that parades Lucretia's bloody corpse to the Roman Forum.
Boy, this is a hard episode for me to make jokes about.
I know, right? It's a pretty. I mean, it's intense.
Uh-huh.
And they arrive there to begin airing their grievances about the Tarquins and to enlist an army. And I have this quote that Brutus urged them to act as men and Romans to take up their arms against insolent foes. So Brutus then begins to level a number of charges against the king and his family. The outrage against Lucretia, to whom everyone could see just resting there, like all the public is seeing her body.
And don't forget, because she's so virtuous. I mean, she was lovely, and she had notoriety, and she was virtuous. And then this terrible thing from this tyrant king's son. Mm-hmm. And what was the son's name again?
Oh, sexist.
Yeah.
Sexist.
Exactly. So when he's born, they brought him and said, should we name him Brian?
Sexiest
No.
rapiest.
Yes, sexiest rapiest.
Yeah, pretty much.
He also just points out like the king's tyranny and the unfair labor of the plebeians in the ditches and the sewers of Rome. He's really pulling out like and this and this and this. And it became so the whole family so rapidly became a target of animosity that the queen Tullia who was witnessing all this proceed, she immediately fled the palace out of fear for her life. She's like,
she just noped right the fuck out.
yeah, she's like,
Yeah, something's bad happened down at the Senate.
So out of this came, and Dad, if you want to fill in more of what occurs here, I'm going right to the whole change in policy that occurred.
Yeah, it wasn't just change of policy, but yeah, change in leadership. You're right that they changed themselves to a republic because there were 7 kings, and that was the last king they had.
So they overthrew him. How?
They overthrow him. Well, they banish him because
they
just like get out of town, you Tarquinians, all of you, and go. However, Lucretia's husband is also along in that same bloodline.
So, but he's not banished. That'd be weird.
He's not banished. He becomes a co-leader of Rome
with Brutus.
With Brutus.
Oh fuck!
No, actually, no. It's a fine thing. They have a wonderful, flourishing new republic, but the group of people in Rome are so incensed with the Tarquinians that, in fact, Lucius, her husband, really can't get the people's love. Poor guy. He just can't get his people love. So eventually, Brutus turns to him. That's why I said, friend. Turns to his friend and says, "Hey, Lucius,
Yeah, I'm still grieving. What's up?
We're having a little bit of problem with the popularity polls. I'm way up there. I'm like at nice 67, 68,
yeah, I think you're a likable guy. I get it.
Oh, yeah, you should see him. The polls are just terrific.
People are wearing their hair like you.
Really?
Yeah. It's like the side part.
Would it be too goofy? I started parting it on the left and see if they followed.
Try it, man. That'd be hilarious.
I could do that. That would be so neat.
Oh my god! Is it you? It's Brutus. Will you sign my Brutus cute shirt?
Yeah, step right over here. Where would you like me to sign it?
My bare chest.
Whoa.
Well,
they don't make him as virtuous as my wife used to be.
Oh, it's
we had a contest about that once.
Yeah.
Yes.
Debbie Downer.
Yeah.
Rome.
So anyway, Lucius, you're just not. We poll on your numbers. You're like like 38%, just not up there, and it's kind of quavering. I don't know. I just think that politically, you might want to take a little hiatus.
Just fuck off.
Whoa.
Just fuck off.
Okay, I'll listen to this random woman and you, Brutus, and I guess
I'm a voter.
I guess I'll go banish myself.
I mean, my husband's a voter. I'm a woman.
Would you like me to pack your bags, sir?
Thank you, Jeeves Tius. So yeah, that's what happened.
Now, how did they have this republic set up? Where they're just like, we've had this idea for a minute on the back burner.
Yeah, I mean, Brutus sort of masterminded this whole thing, and so he had this idea on the books for a while. There's a version of this that I was reading. I think this was Dionysius's work that said that like under the old republic that Brutus had pretended to be just a big dummy because he was like, well, there's nothing I can do in this under this regime anyway. So he just kind of kept all of his ideas to himself. And then as soon as he saw Lucretia's death, he was like, yes, this is my moment. I've been planning this for a while. And he pulls out his book with all of his like, oh, that's my one full of rude drawings. Never mind. Here's this one instead. And he shares all of his ideas with, we will have elections for new leaders.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like, will we ever have minds like that again? Now everyone's like, I have a lot of downtime. Let me just rewatch The Office on Netflix.
Well, yeah. I hope so. I hope we'll have minds like that.
No.
Well, I love this story. I think it's just such a terrific story, and I'm glad we kind of went through it. Yeah.
It's a weird thing it's like sort of a weird story to say that you love. It's sort of like when people say like, oh, my favorite movie is Schindler's List, and you're like, it's weird that that's your favorite.
Well, I'm going to tell you.
But your dad also likes Krampus more than Santa.
Well, there's the component that it isn't just Livy who wrote about this, but Ovid wrote about this, and then Chaucer wrote about this, and then Shakespeare wrote about this, and then there's been operas about this. The story's so full in terms of the intrigue that goes with it, and that's what makes it a full story. And I like a lot of the Greek myths, but the Greek myths themselves can't be a full story. They're kind of an event, a thing that happened.
Yeah.
But this has a whole story in terms of intrigue, play, politics, power, shifting. Of course, it's got all the drama of that tipping point of the rape of Lucretia that just swings everything over. So
yeah,
that's why I like the story, because I think it's so involved.
It's It's dramatic.
and difficult to make a joke about. Isn't
It really was.
Yeah,
I was like,
it is.
okay,
Yeah.
Well, luckily we have 3 women that we can maybe make some jokes about.
I'm gonna let him fly.
Guess the name that these 3 women share.
Is it something that's modern?
No.
Well, then fuck you. Abagazububaba.
Oh, okay, Dad, your guess?
I'm gonna go with La Palita Casanda.
Oh, well, Dad got a P noise in there, so I'm gonna say that he's closer. These 3.
I win a palm.
You do win a palm. Yeah.
Good.
Does this have any cash trade-in value?
So the name is Pelagia, and these 3 myths about 3 women named Pelagia are, I guess, again, this is more on the legend territory than myths. And if someone who's listening is Greek Orthodox, they might be familiar with these women. They all are legends that I think would be not considered Greek mythology or Roman mythology at this point. These are 3 women who went into sainthood, but during a time when the Roman regime was switching over from worshiping pagan gods into becoming the Holy Roman Empire. So they still are rooted in that legend and in that time period, and I felt like they were related in a way to the story of Lucretia, because it deals more with women and views on their agency and their sexuality. So the first Pelagia is Pelagia of Antioch, and according to Ambrose, who was a 4th century Archbishop of Milan, Pelagia of Antioch was home alone during the Diocletian persecution when Roman soldiers arrived. And the Diocletian persecution was the last and most severe persecution of Christians in the Roman Empire. In the winter of 302 AD, Galerius urged Diocletian to begin a general persecution of Christians. And Diocletian was really wary because the Christians were starting to gain a lot of popularity in the empire. And so he goes to the Oracle of Apollo for guidance. And so he shows up there and he's like, hey, Oracle of Apollo, who loves Apollo and worships the pagans. What is a pagan worshiper? What should I do? What should I do about these Christians?
Oh, you gotta take these Christians. You gotta smash their heads in.
And this is the direct words of Apollo.
Oh, if Apollo says, "I'm sorry, I can't be there, bro," but if I was there, I would smash their heads in.
Wow, I mean, that really sounds like the words of Apollo.
I shove a fist up their butts.
Yeah, okay.
And then I punch them from the other side until my 2 fists met in the middle.
Yeah, that really sounds like the words of Apollo. Okay, thank you. So the oracle's words were then written on a scroll.
Smash.
Should I just kind of translate there for you a little bit?
Ass.
I could take those words and I could write them down for that scroll.
You want to get your ass smashed?
I need it word for word. I need it word for word. I need to get those fists.
Touch in the middle.
I'll need
please,
a little more ink.
Please crudely illustrate it too.
Yeah.
And so in 303, the emperors Diocletian, Maximian, Galerius, and Constantius issued a series of edicts rescinding Christians' legal rights and demanding that they comply with traditional religious practices. So that's what was happening when Pelagia of Antioch was at her house, home alone,
Straight chilling.
babysitting. She was 15.
She had a couple kids of her own by then. Back then.
And so they knock on her door and they're like, "Hey, is this the house of Pelagia?"
Yeah. Hey, what's up? I was just watching Fleabag, which everyone should watch
Wow.
on Amazon Prime.
I've not heard of it. By Amazon Prime, you mean like where all the Amazonian
The women, the
hang
tall
out?
women.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. So hey, you seem pretty cool. But we heard this rumor that you're secretly practicing Christianity.
What?
Yeah. There's like a cross back there or something. That's weird.
Oh no, that's arts and crafts project.
Oh, you're making like
I'm making
marionettes.
a
We're
bird
making little marionettes.
birdhouse marionette.
Are you making like like a god's eye, or are you making like a Jupiter eye?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, here's what's gonna happen. We're gonna do a pagan sacrifice out here, and we need you to take part in it to prove that you're still a practicing pagan. It's going to be like we're going to kill something. We're going to sacrifice it to, of course, like Hestia gets first dibs. You know, Hestia gets first dibs.
She's so greedy.
Yeah, and then we're going to like be covered in blood, and then we're going to have sex with you.
Okay, so cool. I don't know you or anyone that's here in my house. So it's a hard pass for me.
Oh.
It's a hard pass. It's a big no. But thank you.
Yeah. So what she does instead of just outright saying a hard pass to the soldiers who have swords is that she says, sounds super fun.
Rain check.
Let me go change my clothes because I don't want to get blood all over these.
Yeah.
And so
Use my crafting clothes.
They say, well, that sounds reasonable. And so she receives permission to change her clothes, and then she closes the door. She walks upstairs, opens a trap door in the roof, pulls herself up to the roof, and then shouts down, "Hey, fuckers! You're not gonna make me do anything pagan."
I don't have to fuck you.
And then she jumps off of her roof into the sea and dies.
Does she die?
Yeah.
You didn't say she had like some sweet beachfront property though.
She has
That's a
sweet
great house.
Yeah, she had
right on the cliff.
Yeah, right on the cliff.
That's
yeah.
a beautiful
Sharp
view.
rocks below.
So she couldn't just like sneak out and then leave.
No, she.
Why is suicide the go-to? This is why school is important. Like all the women are like, something bad happened. Bye.
So the reason that she became a saint is that the patristic sources treat this as sacred martyrdom rather than suicide. That she was like, instead of doing,
She was jumping for Jesus.
she was jumping for Jesus.
Yeah.
Instead of being a pagan and being raped, she was like, nope, I'm going to
I get it.
jump for Jesus. Jump for Jesus is such a, like, that could be a catchphrase, but knowing that it's jump to your death for Jesus
Yeah.
is like, that's a really fucked up.
It could still be a catchphrase.
All right. Well, so the second one is Pelagia of Tarsus. And so, according to tradition, Diocletian's son was heir to the throne. And he fell in love with Pelagia of Tarsus.
And how is he going to make her kill herself?
Right? He falls in love with her and has never even met her, just saw her in a village and was like, yes, that Pelagia of Tarsus is the woman for me.
Thematic, isn't it?
And she wrote him a letter. She said, "Hey, dear Diocletian's son,
Cease and desist.
I do not know your name. I don't know you. Also, I am a practicing Christian in this land. I have sworn to preserve my virginity, and I am wedded to Christ." So,
she's a nun.
yeah. And so Diocletian's son receives the letter, sadly folds it back up, walks upstairs, opens the hatch in his
Stop.
roof, jumps off into the ocean and kills himself because he can't have her. So
No one's ever had that kind of crush on me.
So
Jump into the ocean.
So Diocletian hears that his son killed himself for this woman, and
No, for nothing.
but thinks to himself what any loving father would think. Oh, well, if my son killed himself for this woman, she must be super hot, and I should marry her. So he sends a letter to Pelagia of Tarsus's mother, and he says, "Hey, I'm the emperor. I want to marry your daughter. And Pelagia's mother is like, oh, well, she's a nun, but fuck that. And so sends Pelagia to Rome to marry Diocletian.
Wait, so she does get married to the...
Well, when she arrives, Diocletian explains his train of thought to her. Hey, I heard you were super hot. My son killed himself because he couldn't have you. I'm now going to marry you. And she responded very soundly, you must be insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he didn't take kindly to being called insane by this woman.
Okay, how does she die?
So
Yeah. Emperor and all.
This is turning into a Saw episode. There's just so many different ways to die.
would it surprise you to learn that he burned her to death?
Would it surprise
Wait, you
us?
say it burned to death, like not at the stake? He
He kind of
lit a match at her a bunch of times.
no,
And she stood there?
Yeah.
no, she tied her up
Okay.
like at the stake basically. And that
Now who's insane? Do you think I'm crazy now, woman?
the legend has that when her flesh melted, smells of myrrh pervaded throughout Rome.
I feel like
She
there
was
was a
made
tree.
of myrrh this whole time. Yeah, it was probably the tree.
Myrrh. I'm feeling hungry for a myrrh sandwich.
There were some sticks.
In some versions, she was put inside a big brass bowl.
I'm sorry, there's another version of
Yeah.
her death?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And there's always versions.
Yeah,
of
there's
death.
always. That's their favorite part.
They put her inside a big metal bowl, and they like cooked her from within, lighting a fire underneath the bowl.
Okay, so this is Saw.
Yeah.
And did that smell like myrrh also?
It smelled like chicken noodle soup.
Mm.
So
What you cooking, Emperor?
the story is related.
15-year-old.
15-year-old. You have any carrots?
The story concludes relating that pagans sent 4 lions to surround her bones.
They don't understand that.
And instead of like keeping people from retrieving her bones, that
They ate her.
they apparently they protected her bones from vultures and crows until a Christian bishop could recover them, and that's how and why she became a saint
Well,
out of this.
That's definitely bullshit.
So here's a little disclaimer on it. There is little to no historical base to this story because Diocletian had a daughter named Valeria, but he had no sons. So that whole
Oh, shit.
so take that. So that was a fact that was of considerable importance to the history of his reign, is that he had no male heirs. So it's not like, so that's that story. That's
Back to mythin'.
back to being a myth. So now for our final Pelagia. This is Pelagia the Penitent.
I think she's going to die Final Destination style. I think a roller coaster is going to fall off the rails. And then a car at the same time is going to fly out of the sky, decapitate her, and then she'll drown.
No, she was actually driving behind a truck full of a whole bunch of logs.
I
so-
hated that one, yeah.
Yeah. No, this is the story. Pelagia the Penitent begins her story known as Margarita.
Margarita?
Her name is Margarita?
Her name is Margarita.
Cool. Keep that.
She was the foremost actress of her time.
Mm-hmm.
She's already awesome.
And she was a prominent harlot in Antioch. And take into consider.
That's where the other Pelagia's from.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And take into consideration that, but this is like 400 years later. This is like around
1998.
This is around 390 as opposed to 290 ish from between those two Antioch Pelagias. And this when we consider that she's being called a harlot here,
She just wore lipstick.
This is a very like prim idea of what a harlot is. She's described by she's wearing perfume. She had a harlot. She had an entourage because she was a popular actress. She was
Oh, this is the first bitch I've heard about having friends. Okay.
she knew worldly people from like all different parts that like to come over and hang out with her.
She's gonna get
she
a good
was
death.
immodestly bareheaded. So
They're gonna quarter her.
and the outlines of her body were clearly visible beneath her gold cloth, pearls, and precious stones, which ran from her bare shoulders to her feet. So she's wearing a shoulder-bearing but fully covering gown.
So Margarita, is she from Rome?
She's I don't know where she's from, but she's lived in Antioch.
Okay.
So as she passed through town, many of the fathers, like Christian priesthood people, that's my knowledge of religion showing right there. Christian priesthood people. They were shamed into looking away, but the bishop Nonus stared openly and confessed himself delighted. He mocked his fellow fathers by saying, "Hey, that woman right there, she clearly takes care of herself more than you guys take care of your own souls." Oh, and he like holds out his hand to get high fives from people. And
MTV was filming this again.
yeah. So Pelagia overhears, or Margarita rather, hears him saying this and is so delighted that she says, "Hey, you know what, Nonus? You're not such a bad guy. I'll tell you what. I'm going to go to one of your sermons tomorrow morning, and we'll see if you can convince me of your word of God as opposed to, not believing in anything like I
will
do."
burn you at the stake. I'll see you at noon.
So she appeared at his next Sunday sermon, and Nonus's sermon was on hell and the goodness of paradise, but probably mostly on like the fucking scariness of hell. Which
they stick one fist up your ass and the other fist down your throat until the two fists meet.
Oh.
Yay, Nonus.
And this prompts her to repent. She had two of her slaves trail Nonus to his residence and then wrote to him on wax tablets. And she said...
Wax tablets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real permanent.
Yeah.
Permanent.
Wow.
She called herself on this. This was the original Snapchat because it would melt in the
Exactly.
Exactly. We had a record of it
The original
somewhere around here.
She called herself sinful and a servant of the devil, and sought mercy from God. And Nonus replied to the request that God knows her and her past, and that he will receive her, but only in the presence of other bishops. He can't be the only one that gives her the stamp of approval. So she goes, what?
It's supposed to be like, yeah, I'm the priest. Do a bunch of Hail Marys, you're fine.
Yeah, but Nonus clearly he was the most liberal, I guess, of all the bishops, and so you needed the more conservative ones to agree.
Exactly. He had a little issue
He's
there.
like, you need a jury.
Yeah. So she goes to the Basilica of St. Julian to see these other bishops, and Nonus demands surety that she would not return to her former life. You'll not act anymore. You'll not wear lipstick. You'll not wear gold, or not wear jewels. And she says, "Okay, yeah, I'll not do that. But if you don't accept me, then
I'm gonna kill myself.
all my sins will be on you."
Oh, she tried to like hex them.
Yeah, and so the archbishop was informed, and he sent the deaconess Romana to clothe her in her baptismal gown. And Nonus took her confession and baptized Margarita under her birth name, Pelagia. And so she's now Pelagia. And Romana serves as her godmother. This is where things get non-historical, because after this happens, there's a little knock at the door. And who is it? It's the devil. It's Satan.
Oh.
And he's
AKA Apollo.
and he's there to complain about, hey, you took my favorite harlot.
Hey, why aren't you showing your shoulders anymore? I don't get to have any fun.
No, stay away, foul creature. And Pelagia makes the sign of the cross at him to scare him away.
Just wear this lipstick.
He returned the next night to renew his complaints, and he was driven off the same way. On the third day, because we always like there to be a pattern, Pelagia directs her steward to inventory her possessions, and she turned them over to Nonus, who dispersed them to widows, orphans, and the poor of the city. She then freed her slaves.
Oh, don't got nothing except this here perfume.
She then freed her slaves, both male and female, and took their golden torques. And I had to look up what a torque is. It's a slave collar, basically like what Missandei wore on Game of Thrones.
Wow.
Off with her own hands, and then she begins living with her godmother Romana.
So one morning at church fucked her whole shit up.
Yeah.
She had a good thing going. She had friends.
Mm-hmm.
She was just feeling independent, feeling good, being an actress.
You can come and live with me now because I'm Romana and I'd love to have you in my little house.
Can we drink?
We can do a lot of little things. Just keep the shutters a little closed. I don't know what to see.
All right, the party continues.
But she didn't stay there very long.
Oh, bye.
One night,
Oh, well,
She's-
This lady parties too hard.
she stole out into the dark wearing one of Nonus's robes and headed for Jerusalem, where she built a cell on a Mount of Olives.
Oh, in Mount Olive.
Yeah, on the Mount of Olives. Yeah.
Yes.
And not
It's
a
the
mountain.
pits, usually.
not a mountain of olives, which is what it sounded like I said. at
Yes,
first.
it does.
She lived there for 3 to 4 years, disguising herself as a male recluse.
You said a cell? She built a cell?
Yeah, like a little place for herself. A little.
Not like she made herself a prison.
No, she made a like a little house where,
Okay.
and she was dressed as a priest, where people could come and like a cell, like like
Like a
s-
studio
Like a hut?
apartment.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've lived in a few cells.
She lived there she disguised herself as a male recluse and a eunuch named Pelagias. Didn't change her name that much. And then she's
still being an actress. This is some dramatic shit.
And then she apparently died. Well, she died as a result of not eating at all.
Still an actress.
Uh-huh. So, according to Orthodox tradition, Pelagia was buried in her cell, and upon the discovery that the renowned monk had been a woman, the Holy Fathers tried to keep it a secret. They pulled she died, and they lifted up the priest robe, let's see that dead dick, and they opened it up, and they're like, oh wow, it's a woman. They tried to keep it a secret, but gossip spread, and her relics drew pilgrims as far off as Jericho and the Jordan Valley. So that's her story of the harlot that wasn't really that much of a harlot, turning her life around. And I told these 3 stories of Pelagia in historical order too. So I feel like these stories sort of related the changing viewpoints of women as Christian purity became a more prominent thing to be expected of women throughout time. And we go from that, we go to that from the story of Lucretia that was about virtuousness and purity, but under different definitions under that pagan society. So I just thought that it was interesting.
It was a laugh riot.
It was a laugh riot. So yeah, that's how do you feel, Sarah, about learning about 3 Pelagias and a Lucretia?
Well, as your father so beautifully put it earlier, history repeats itself, and women it's still sex to be a woman, but not quite as much, but probably again soon. Yeah, even more. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of How Virtuous Is She? With your host, Mac Macatus. Hey, everyone. I'm Mac Macatus, and you're watching How Virtuous Is She, the only game show where contestants figure out how virtuous their wife is, and they win big pomfrons. With us today, all the way from Antioch, we got...
I'm Hal Kinnicus.
Hal Kinnicus. And to his left, we have, all the way from Rome...
Brutamonimus.
Brutamonimus. Now, you two had a little wager backstage that...
oh, my, did we?
Yes.
Oh, let me tell you, it was a good one.
Well, that both of your wives were very virtuous. The very first test that we're going to have them be put through is, we brought them backstage, and there was a big old jug of wine. How much are you willing to wager that she did not drink that wine?
Oh, I'm going to wager 2 drachma because my wife will just sort of sip it and then turn up her nose.
I'm going to put all my chips in that my bitch drained it.
Oh, well, we're going back. And yes, your wife, Marcissa, drank all that goddamn wine.
That's right. She's got a problem.
Not only that, she also slayed the other woman in the room with her and drank her blood from her skull.
When she drinks, she gets wild. I love her.
I think it's safe to say that your wife was the most virtuous, but she is dead.
Can I meet your wife, please?
We'll have a good time backstage.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Well, that was depressingly brutal the way that the rest of the episode went. So that works out.
I'm going to go jump off of a cliff into the ocean now.
Oh, boy.
I am erect.
Well, thanks for coming on to this episode and knowing way more about not only Lucretia, but the proper pronunciation of the characters in that story's names.
Well, thank you. I did kind of read up a little bit. I had a great time. Thanks.
Yeah, you are the new host, and we quit. We're going to jump off Paul's house into the ocean.
I'm putting a trampoline at the bottom of that cliff. You guys don't get to abandon.
Hey, let us die.
Where else am I going to try out my different voices? But here, you have
true.
to call me in.
This
so I
is
can
the
play.
workshop.
That is true. Well, as I mentioned before, this was our episode 59 of Myth Understood, and we are doing one more episode with Greek/Roman mythology as our central theme, and then we are moving on to what are we moving on to, Sarah?
Who knows?
Who knows? Are we going to keep it secret?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. Well, then we're going to move on to another mythology because Sarah says let's keep it secret. So let's not get you excited about it. We'll reveal it our next episode, maybe.
Maybe.
Oh, God. Okay. Well, as always, if you would like to follow Sarah and I on social media, you can find me at the Paul Bianchi on Twitter and Instagram, and you can find Sarah
At the Sarah Oliver. All over the fucking place.
all over the place. Dad, should people follow you on Instagram?
No, just follow me over at the Casual Break Bar and Tavern down on West End Boulevard.
Okay. But follow you and then hopefully leave you alone.
Well, I don't know. You can
Just
always
make
buy,
sure
you
he
can
gets
always
home
buy me a
safe.
beer.
Okay,
Yeah,
that'd
point
be
me in the
great.
right direction.
Yeah.
You can also follow Myth Understood at _Myth Understood on Twitter and Instagram, and our podcast Daddy Network, Dragon Wagon Radio at It's Dragon Wagon on Instagram and Twitter as well. Feel free and please rate and review our shows. It helps visitors
Find us.
Yeah. Did I say visitors? It helps visitors. It helps listeners find us.
Don't worry, I said viewers earlier.
That's okay. Yeah. You can view us wherever. And also support the show by visiting the shop because the shop has items.
Get you a sexy shirt.
Get you a sexy shirt. Get you a tasty mug.
Get some of the cut off jorts.
Yeah. People are going to be looking for that now.
Why don't we have them? I'll make them for you.
I'll
special order. You special order them from me, and I will make you jorts.
And finally, show your support at dragonwagonradio.com/support to help donate to this growing independent podcast radio network.
Love you guys. Night. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
To all of you, but mostly to Daddy Bianchi.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, mighty Aphrodite if it isn't Jake Lloyd himself.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Jake, you host an incredible podcast that Paul and I have been on. It's called Elaborate.
That it is. Elaborate is a really free-form conversational talk show in which I sit down with people and I sort of dive into what makes them tick, dive into who they are, where they come from. Usually I figure out what the issues are. It's not therapy, but it's not therapy.
Well, that is a marvelous journey that I would love to be on with you. How can I find this podcast? You
can find it wherever podcasts are. iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and elaboratepod.com.
It's Dragon Wagon.